Welcome to Fat Cat production of News with a View, February 26th, 2025, episode 40, hosted by me, John A. Costa. What you're hearing in the background is work being done on Studio A. So just some cleaning up and we'll be up there today or tomorrow. All right. Today's list of items in the news. 5 of them. This is going to be probably a full hour show. FBI investigates former director Comey. It's a biggie. The MSPB board halts firing by DOGE of 6 employees. That will be interesting. DOGE finally found out who really runs that organization. So, food stamp CBT SNAP benefits for illegals to be halted. And 5th, judge blocks Trump's refugee admission executive order. So, there's a lot. The second item is really detailed. And and I've said before that about 20% of Trump's executive orders are going to be challenged all the way up to the robes. I'd say of that 20%, 90% of those will hit the robes. The others will either be settled, and he won't be able to do them. I mean, that's not as it stands. So, and I'll explain that too. So, all right, current FBI leadership. They're probing claims that the agency ran an unauthorized operation to infiltrate Donald Trump's 2016 presidential election using 2 female undercover agents. Now, when the FBI sends women into an organization called Honeypot, they're there to win favor or court favor of males inside the organization for the sole purpose of obtaining information. Okay? This investigation, allegedly ordered by then Director James Comey in 2015, and was revealed by a bureau whistleblower to the House Judiciary Committee and first reported by the Washington Times last October. Now, this is a Washington Times article. There's some stuff in the article that I just couldn't nail down. So, doesn't mean it's not right or it's not wrong. I just couldn't put my fingers on it. Mr. Comey, according to the whistleblower, personally directed an off-the-books investigation targeting Mr. Trump shortly after his announced candidacy in 2025. These 2 female FBI employees allegedly infiltrated the campaign at high levels and were instructed to act as honeypots, intelligence terminology for operatives who use romantic or sexual interest to gather information while traveling with Mr. Trump and campaign staff. Now, an off-the-book agency run investigation isn't really an investigation. That's used so that they do not have to follow the rules of law. And it happens. I'm sure it happened in every administration. And this operation reportedly operated separately from a better-known crossfire hurricane investigation into Russian collusion allegations, which was, of course, was Trump's a spy. All right? So what they're saying here is the whistleblower claims early the investigation lacked predication and was conducted without creating official case files in FBI systems, potentially concealing it from the Justice Department Inspector General Michael Horowitz during his review of the FBI. Now, this has some really ominous tentacles to it. And again, these are only allegations. Whistleblowers have been shown not to be truthful. But since you have two former agents or agents that are still there that have come forward, this is a serious, serious matter. And it would just prove what President Trump had been saying all along about the weaponization of the FBI. In a political sense, I've always said the FBI has always been weaponized. It is the keeper of the secrets. And if these two whistleblowers are to be believed, which remember, they're women. All women should be believed, right? Which I don't subscribe to. There should be a special committee, either in Congress or Senate, whoever wants to take hold of this. I would say Congress, where they get some. Comey has to be subpoenaed to appear. These two whistleblowers should also be subpoenaed to appear in front of them. Comey would have every right to face his accuser. And I feel that if this does go to the Hill, that Comey should be given every right at these hearings, no matter what the time frame is. Sometimes they say you got 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever. Unlimited time within, a construct of the hearing. But he should be given every opportunity to defend himself. I'm a believer in that. These guys, whatever the situation is, you should have the right to defend yourself. And guilty, innocent doesn't matter. Your rights matter. But the evidence decide your guilt or innocence or lack of evidence. That is the clause to say whether you're guilty or not. Is the evidence presented as facts? I would say as much that if Comey wanted immunity for his testimony, I'd give it to him. But only after closed-door hearing to hear what he had to say. That would be theoretically off the record. Nothing's ever off the record. But immunity in that he won't be charged, as malfeasance and malpractice of his office. Now, this happened, 10 years ago. I don't know how far they can go back, but if he lied during congressional other hearings, he could have a problem. And I'd give him immunity. I just want the answer. I just want the truth. I just want the truth. And if that's what it takes to get to the truth, then that's what we should do. No one's going to lock him up. It's just not happening. He's got so many secrets on people that you throw him a life preserver and a lifeline, the opportunity to write a second book, third book, whatever. And but the truth comes out, and we find out who was behind this and why. Because this happened in the Obama administration. And we should have a right to know. And I don't think that's asking too much. But I also don't want to see an innocent person dragged over broken glass just because they can. I didn't feel that was right to do with Trump. And I don't feel it would be right to do with Comey. So there's ways of doing it painlessly and effectively. So if that's the case, let's do it painlessly. There's no reason to threaten the guy with jail and destruction and, ruining. Even though what he was doing that and undermining our political system. What is done is done. Trump won a second term. That speaks volumes. And that's my kitty cat crying at the door, Ragsy, who wants to come in here, but she comes in and then wants to leave and then come in. I can't have the door open when all that work is going on. So that's what's going on with that, and that's kind of big news. That is actually very big news. Now, this one is going to take a few minutes for me to digest it all, and I've read it over like 6 times. Honestly, like 6 times. And I still am vague on it and looking up other words because every word has a meaning. And it might not be a meaning in the general use, but might be a major meaning in the legal use of that word. So, but what happened today is a U.S. agency halts Trump's administration firing of 6 government employees. And so the termination of 6 federal employees who U.S. President Donald Trump's administration targeted in its mass firing of probationary workers. And this was done by Dellinger. I call him Dellinger. But, an appointee of former Democrat Joe Biden. I hate when they do that, but let's get real. These people were put in offices and stuff and went through the vetting process and everything. So, and this is the MSPR, MSPB administration, which is the Merit System Protection Board, an independent agency that hears appeals by government employees when they are fired or disciplined. And they issued a decision on the behest of the watchdog agencies whose leaders' removal by Trump has been stalled by the court. So Dellinger was fired. The court said, can't do it that way. And it is now in the court's decision. So what this really means is the decision to stay the 6 employees' terminations, meaning we're putting them on hold. It doesn't mean that they won't be terminated. But the termination stay is for 45 days only. And it only applies to these 6 mentioned employees. And Dellinger argued that the agencies missed used the employee's probationary status to carry out a de facto reduction in force without following the laws and regulations that govern when agencies carry out large-scale workforce reductions. Now, is that a true statement? Yeah, that's a true statement. And he cited it. And like I said, there were things that President Trump executive order kind of knew these issues were going to come up. And where this really comes into being, and I mean, you got to drill and go down. The Section 5 U.S.C., which is the U.S. Code, and that's 7106, management's rights. Subject to subsection B of this section, nothing in this chapter shall affect the authority of any management official of any agency. Now, since Trump is in the executive branch, the highest management official, and Trump's executive orders can only be used against those in the executive branch. So it's funky language, but it's there and everyone knows it, and that's the way that works. Make sure everything is on a balanced playing field. Okay, so saying that, the first thing, item number 1, to determine the mission, budget, organization, number of employees, and internal security practices of the agency. And 2, in accordance, and this is the kicker right here, in accordance with applicable laws. So, the Dellinger is citing that Trump did not follow the applicable rules and laws in the firing. Now, this stuff goes back a long time. And what it is Presidential Reorganization Authority. And the creation of the Presidential Reorganization was foreshadowed with the passage of the Overman Act in 1918, which allowed the president to consolidate government agencies through abolishing any specific government agency through abolishing any specific department was prohibited, meaning you couldn't go in and go, I'm going to close the mail system down, or I'm going to take the IRS and fire them, and get rid of that agency. So what it did say, though, is he was allowed to consolidate if the Department of Paperclips could also take care of the Department of Rubber Bands and Envelopes and the Department of Envelopes could all be done by the Department of Paperclips. That could happen. He can consolidate it and then reduce the staff accordingly. But usually Congress gives that authority to the president during times of emergencies, and this is why, like, Trump, issued an emergency, under emergency powers, and that, I said right from the beginning, that's a problem. So it permits the president to divide, consolidate, abolish, or create agencies of the United States government by presidential election. But, again, the presidential reorganization is a term used to refer to a major statutory power that has sometimes been temporarily extended by the United States Congress to the President of the United States. At that point, it permits the President to divide, consolidate, abolish, or create agencies of the United States federal government by presidential directive, subject to limited legislative oversight. So, if all of Congress would line up one way, such as in blue, and they were able to get a majority of the red to come with them, they would be able to have limited authority over what was going on. If it goes blue and red, and of course red is the flavor of the day, then it can just keep going on the way it goes. But there is a time frame and a set time. You just can't have it unlimited time. And this presidential authority had been extended to 9 presidents on 16 separate occasions. As of 2024, it's most recently granted to Ronald Reagan. Interesting. Another one that wanted government to be not a major employer. So, presidential reorganization authority is designed to allow periodic refinement of organizational efficiency of the government through significant and sweeping modifications to its architecture, and might otherwise be too substantial to realistically implement through a parliamentary practice. Now, see, that is worrisome, and I can understand why people would be worried about a statement like that, where people then turn around and go, well, this is more than you can chew. So we're going to take that away, and we're going to deal with it. We're going to fix the problem, and you sit over there, and when we need you, we'll call you. Right now, everyone, that's red is going, yay, that's the way it should be. Yay, we got the vote. We got this. But once this authority is established and used, then others can use it. And remember, there will become a day where there'll be a non-Republican in office. And they then shall have the power, and I say this kiddingly, of the throne. So everyone shouldn't be too, yay, well, we finally got a guy in there that's going to do something. Yeah, be careful. And this is where I say that it could be very, very dangerous. We have these checks and balances in here for a reason. And we have to be very, very careful on how they're handled. And this is why I said I don't like the idea of the Democrats pushing things all the way up to the robes. Because when the robes decide, that's it. It might take 20, 30 years to unravel that. You saw what happened with Roe v. Wade. Took, 40 some odd years. Almost 50 years to unravel that. And that was just something what I considered very simple. This would not be able to be unraveled. And you'd have to have really a majority of the Congress and Congresses to reverse some of this by law. it's just dangerous, dangerous ground. And I think Biden abused it. I think Trump is going to abuse it. And when I say abuse it, I'm not just saying, it's it's an overextension of power. And it becomes then not stoppable because the courts have said, no, he's got this power to do this. And that was not certainly the intent of some of this. And we should be very, very mindful and careful about it. And like I said, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a federalist. And the Constitution is the Constitution. And I have the robes up there, and I feel perfectly confident in every one of those 9 justices in making good policy decisions and rulings on our Constitution. But some of this stuff could and should, it comes down to you should or you could. But should you do it? And I just think that the only bag of tricks that the Democrats have is challenging it in the courts and then ending up having to concede that the power that always existed there, but presidents had elected not to use it or exercise it to that extent. Well, now you have a president that's going to push it all the way to the wall. And then some. And once that happens, that's vetted. It's done. There's no taking it back. And I think the Democrats really just need to sit back and let certain things happen and then jump on it. I think the president messed up in not giving notification on certain things that he should have given and was just absolutely easy to do. You kind of tip your hand a bit, but that was the whole process, to tip your hand, to have Congress turn around and go, okay, Mr. President, what are you doing here? Show us your game plan. And why are you doing this? And then, you set up legal precedents. You could fight it in courts. And Trump was afraid that going through the courts, that he would eventually win those, but it'd be 2 years down the road. Or maybe not even before the next midterm election. And, then, he has done nothing that he said he was going to do. Well, because you're tying him up in courts, and the next week the courts would say, he could do that. But now, you have a swing in Congress, and the Democrats are rolling the dice. But I'm saying with these judges, that the justices that are in there right now, I don't know if I'd want to roll the dice. Usually you'll make them give you an answer, and you're not going to like that answer. And these laws, like, 1706, that I was, referring to, those are very, 7106, sorry. Those are management right rules as they apply in accordance with applicable law. Now, since he controls the executive branch, does his executive order then become the law? Now, in the executive branch, I'd say, yeah, it does. It does when it comes to the executive branch. Not to the Department of Justice, not to anyone else, because that's a separate... He doesn't have that power. It's limited. And that's the way it should be. He can only affect the executive branch. And if USAID is under the executive branch, Yeah, he could do it. He could say that those rules don't apply to him because he's the president. I'm not so sure about that, but I will say this, that there'll only be, out of the tens of thousands that are being fired, you'll be lucky if you see 500 to 1,000 of those people retain their positions. It's just not going to happen. All right. The White House announced today that they will assume direct control of the daily press pool after judge denies AP's bid to restore its access. Now, remember I reported the other day that the AP went to court because they weren't allowed in the sandbox at the White House on Air Force One and Mar-a-Lago. And they are screaming that the press is being silenced. And I said, no, they're not being silenced. They're just not being given access. And access to the president is not a guarantee. So now what they're saying is that the White House will decide who can come into the press pool, who can come into the White House. And there's a lot of people on the right that are saying, whoa, slow down. You really shouldn't be doing this. The court did not totally side with AP or side with the White House. This is coming back March 20th. And so the White House said it's beyond time that the White House press operation reflects the media habits of the American people in 2025 and not 1925. Yeah, no, I don't agree with that statement at all from the White House. That is not a good statement to make. You have a policy of letting access in, but I do agree that the president does have the right to say on the White House, in the White House press room, on Air Force One, and his home Mar-a-Lago, he has the right to say who comes in. I think the White House doing what they just did is going to make the media think twice, because there are going to be times when all the media is going to go and disagree with the president's actions, or the vice president's actions, or Congress's actions, or the Senate's actions, where everyone is on board, and then he goes, well, now I got to see if I want you coming in here now. Again, access to the president is not a guarantee. But it's not good stewardship to limit them. But Trump absolutely has the right to do it. I think there's, and again, all comes down to could and should. And his gripe with the AP is that, he wants the AP to take the knee on the Gulf of America. Yeah, I mean, pick and choose your fights, mostly with the press. I wouldn't want to have the press not on my side. Though Trump has lived with that his whole existence. And he became the president twice. So I don't think Trump really cares what the press thinks about him, because there'll always be someone in that media that will agree with Trump, or, and give him access. And in today's world, just like this is today, I might not have a lot of viewers, but I can do this, and I can become a source and an outlet. And it doesn't mean that if something spectacular would happen and all of a sudden I have 100,000 viewers per day, that I couldn't go to the White House and ask for presidential, press credentials. And they might say, yeah, well, we'll let you, on the grounds, and we'll let you around, and you could come to press pool parties. But we're not going to let you in the White House. Or they might turn around and go, hey, we love what you're saying, and, wow, you got it right. And it's exactly what we're thinking. We're on the same page, so we'll allow you into the press room. And we'll allow you on Air Force One. And when the president goes to his home in Mar-a-Lago and we have a press conference, you can come in. So, the news organizations don't like being told what to do because they feel that that's arm twisting. And I'm not saying they're wrong with that, but they still have access to the president when he goes out. And mostly Trump is very visible. He likes hearing himself talk more than I like to hear myself talk. And, that is an access. And I think President Trump has already shown he has more access probably in his first 35 days in office than Biden had in a year. All right? So I think people need to calm down a little bit. And I think President Trump should just reevaluate his stance on that and, throw an olive branch somehow out to the AP and everyone and just say, you know what, I got bigger fish to fry. But I still have the right to say who comes in these three areas. And it becomes larger than that in reality, because today it's the three areas, and then it's this private organization is hosting me, but I told them that the AP can't come in here. They can let everyone else in. I don't care. They could have Russian television come in here, Chinese television. I don't care. But the AP, nope. Then that becomes a problem. You see how this can then go from where he would have solid ground to stand on, and now it's getting a little murky. So, Donald Trump, be careful. Don't get carried away with yourself. Mostly with the press. You don't want to screw the press. Not that he cares again. Not that he cares. The press has always screwed him. So, as far as he's concerned, basically, he told me, I'll do what I'm going to do, and you can just cry about it. All right. Item number 3. And I'll be coming back to item number 2 in the next week or 2, 3, 4, because that's going to be a biggie with the layoffs and the firings. All right, number 3. DOGE head finally announced. White House finally comes up with an official answer for who's running DOGE. And it's an Obama honoree. The White House on Tuesday provided the answer to weeks-old mysteries. Who's actually running the so-called Department of Government Efficiency? But it's immediately facing new questions on the apparent, well, I don't know what this word, I looked at this, but obfuscation of the precise role of billionaire Donald Trump advisor Elon Musk. So, turns out that Amy Gleason, who was appointed in 2015 by Obama, when they had a problem with the Obama healthcare plan going out. Remember, you went to the Obama site, affordable healthcare site, and they were having all types of problems getting that service up and running on a server platform where you can go in, get all the information, request, blah, blah, blah. And that was the nexus of, the Department of Digital Services. And Amy Gleason, a nurse turned technology expert, was placed there by Obama, and she was honored by former President Obama, who then worked in the Trump, and she had then worked in the Trump administration for his first term, and also the first year of Joe Biden's term. She heads the Office of Digital Services since 2015, and that department has been renamed DOGE. So she is in charge. I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what the... I'm looking something up here now, just going back to seeing if that was... Nope. A question I had put out there. But she is still theoretically the person in charge. Now, I had saw her name with this under the digital servicing, department. But I didn't know she was still there with it. I didn't see anything that she wasn't there with it. But, we were all told it's Elon Musk is running it. And now Trump is saying, no, that's not the case. Elon Musk is not running it. This is being run by, she's the one in charge, and she might be looking like, what? I'm not in charge. No one has asked me anything. And I go, that's going to be the problem that the president's going to face when you do stuff like that. And when you start making decisions and comments and things, and they go point to her, they might not get her and go, were you ever informed of anything that was going on? So your department was being usurped, or, they'll do, and those will be perfectly legitimate questions to ask. So, I know Trump likes chaos, and I know he likes working in chaos. But at some point in time, people will unravel that chaos. And then you're going to have to answer rudimentary questions. And if you don't have the right answers, it's going to look mighty dodgy. So, and that was from the AP, I think. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not the AP. That was from, I didn't say who that was from. I gotta look that up. Bad me, bad notes. But this is from Fox News reporting this. Top Trump officials, they moved to block illegal immigrants from receiving food stamps and to follow the law with a full stop. So, President Trump's newly appointed Department of Agriculture announced on Tuesday it will take steps to ensure that illegal immigrants in the United States are not eligible for food stamp benefits. So, Brooke Rollins is directing the Food and Nutrition Services, all these departments, FNS, to immediately clarify and enforce all rules restricting its beneficiaries to the U.S. citizens and legal residents only. So legal resident would be a documented. You're documented, you are not here illegally. You are entitled to every right of a U.S. citizen. I have some problems with that, but that's okay. That's okay. My grandfather came over in I think it was 11, and didn't become a citizen until 1923, but he was documented. So, and my grandmother didn't come through Ellis Island because she came over first class, and first class people coming to the United States did not have to go through Ellis Island. They were met on board ship by representatives of the immigrations. They took their names, boom, 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 and welcomed them to the shore. So that's how my grandma got here. She came in style. My grandfather came in steerage. So, getting back to this. Directive enforces Trump's executive order from February 19th aimed at ensuring taxpayer resources are not used to incentivize or support illegal immigration. Which, yeah. Stop FEMA from giving money for hotels for illegals. Put them in tents. And so bureaucratic blunders are leaving billions of dollars on the table as Americans are starved to keep up with the ever-growing $36 trillion in debt. Well, they're right. We're paying for it. And, these people are illegal and taking advantage of it. So, and they're saying that, we want to make sure that these government programs are for our citizens and those here legally. And Trump has said go after the money. If they overpaid, if they did this, if they did that, claw back. Border Czar Tom Homan explained to Fox News last week that illegal immigrants are incentivized to come to the U.S. while they are reaping more benefits than most Americans make in their salaries. Now, I didn't look that up. That was one of the statements where it's hard to pin down how much money these people are getting because it is so squirrely being doled out. There's not just one branch of the government giving illegals monetary support. And, states are giving money, but then getting money from the federal government through other sources where they're skimming off. And ultimately, that comes out of our pockets. And there's no clear dollar number yet on what's going on with that. So, his statement of they're getting more benefits than most Americans make in their salaries could be extremely correct. So there's a lot of problems going on out there, and this is what happens. And when you put the brakes on, and things haven't been seat belted in or secured, and you just stop it, well, physics. An object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon. So, everything's flying around. And that's because Biden, Obama, Bush, Clinton, they all knew that this stuff was all flying around out there, and it would be almost impossible for someone to attempt to bring it in and rein it in, because it would be almost in a full-time 24-hour-a-day job. And there was no one there willing to do it. until November 5th, 2024. And then there was someone willing to do it. And I expect things to get broken here. You know, when you're moving, you're going to lose things, you're going to break things, you're going to find things. I didn't know I had that. Holy mackerel. Didn't realize. You know, so get ready, America, because we haven't even begun yet. All right, more legal actions. This is from Politico. Judge blocks Trump's executive order suspending refugee admission to the U.S. Now, this is a interesting one because I think the president has the right to suspend it, and I think that this will go to the courts. I mean, this will go up there, and I think Trump is going to win this one, hands down. So a federal judge on Tuesday blocked President Trump's executive order implementing indefinite pause on refugee admission to the United States, saying the directive appeared to amount to a nullification of federal law. So what this judge is saying is that since there was no time frame put on the executive order, pause, because pause means to halt. It doesn't mean that it can't restart again. But if it never restarts again, then that's stopped. And if it stops and doesn't exist any further after, it's been nullified. I understand that logic. That is not skewed logic. That is logic. So, but Trump's order, which instructed the Department of Homeland Security to immediately stop processing refugees' admission, has crossed the line from permissible discretion, discretionary actions, to effective nullification of a congressional will. And this was Judge Jamal Whitehead, a Seattle-based appointee of former President Joe Biden. Now, again, I don't like when they do that. I don't like when they say, well, he was appointed by former President Joe Biden. It doesn't matter who appointed him. He's there. And he's there for life unless he's removed. So, it doesn't matter. We could say that he's a leftist-leaning, Democratic-leaning, law-leaning, whatever. But, that stuff. They have no problems printing, this, based appointing for former President Joe. But unnamed sources, we're not going to name them. Okay? It's the same thing. Stop. To be sure, the president has substantial discretion to suspend refugees' admission, but that authority is not limitless. Judge Whitehead continued, I cannot ignore Congress' detailed framework for refugee admission and the limits it placed on the president's ability to suspend the same. Our system of separated powers demands no less. Now, he is right in that saying. He is correct in his thought process. Justice Department Attorney Augustus Valente asked the judge to pause his order while the administration considers an appeal. And Judge Whitehead said he would decide on that question when he issues his formal written order. Well, so what he's saying with his order that Trump can't do that, I would say that when it goes up the ladder, if Trump comes out and says what his pause is, and he might turn around and go, I'm going to do this. This is, I'm looking at everything, and I need at least 180 days, but I might need more. But before I hit that 180-day mark, on maybe the 120th day, we'll report back to the judge with what we're finding, and maybe we could have a much clearer answer, or maybe even in that 120-day window, we might restart it again because we found and fixed problems. That is the way I would have structured that. The problem with doing that is now you set, again, you put what you want out on the table and they'll just pick it apart. Why 120 days? You should know in 10 days. You should know in 14 days. You should know. And look at what happened with DOGE and everything else that's being done. You just hit so much built-in red tape that even the president can't figure out what's going on. And he'll figure it out. He's got people there. They'll figure it out. But I'd go to the courts and say, I need 180 days. And I will give you, if you need periodic reports every 90 days, I'll give you that. Every 60 days, I'll give you that. And on the 120th day, we'll give you our findings and our recommendations and what we're doing to fix it. And maybe by 180 days, we could resume the process. But if I find all these other things bad over here, I need more time. But I'll bring them to the courts, and then we can have that argument then. I can't tell you how many angels can dance on the tip of this pin right now because I haven't looked at it. So that's what's going on today. It's going to be an interesting day. Wacky Wednesday. That's a fake number calling me. Not the people I want to talk to that have the answers for me on some of these questions. I go to powerful people to get some questions answered. So, with that, I'm going to say thank you. Yesterday was a disaster getting this all up and going. That's why it was only 37 minutes. Not my usual 45 to 47 to an hour and 7. Ran into a lot of technical problems yesterday. And hopefully we won't have those problems again in the future. Right as I was going to end my show yesterday, on the first take, we lost power. And my switcher waits for me to tell it to stop recording to create the file. It saves it into a TMP file, but I have yet, using software extraordinaire, to take that and convert it back to an MP4. So I know it sounds easy, and they go, well, I have all this editing software. I have that editing software too, and it just looks at it and goes, can't do it. And I've tried reintegrating a known good source from the same switcher and the same everything with the metadata to try to figure that all out. Couldn't do it, so I had to redo the show. That means re-editing and putting stuff in, and I go, some little witty remarks. I don't remember those witty remarks. So tough luck. That's what I get for not having an up supply on the switcher and the cameras and all that, which would only cost me $90. And one's in the mail. So my new studio, which I don't hear them working right now, we'll have that in there, so that if we lose power, And that's the first time we lost power. I didn't even lose power in hurricanes. And they said a transformer blew up or something. Yeah, it happens. That way, this won't happen again. All right, I'm going to say good night. Thank you, Chris, Rowan, anyone else out there that's watching me. Hello. Give to charities. There's a lot of people out there that need help, that the government is not helping and should. Give to a charity of your choice, of course, but make sure it's a registered charity, and that charity won't come to you. You must go to that charity to make sure you're not a victim helping a victim. Say your prayers. Prayers do work. They do. And with that, I'm going to say good night, and I'm going to put this all together. It's like 12 in the afternoon now. I'm hungry. All right, with that, I'm going to fade to black.